art found in Melbourne's inner city laneways. We also explore how online identities are used, created and expressed through social media platforms such as YouTube. Hi, I'm Zoe Bellotta and welcome to La Trobe University's Real, the program that investigates Melbourne's diverse culture from the perspective of young people. Throughout this series of Real, we have been focusing on the concepts of identity and belonging and how hobbies, activities and lifestyles can shape a person. William Shakespeare famously wrote, "We know what we are, but not what we may be." Many people use different forms of art to express their identity and also gain a sense of belonging. Creativity can be an outlet, a guide to the future you, and something that makes you special. And so that's what tonight's episode's all about. Also tonight, we'll be looking at a La Trobe directed and produced short documentary focusing on the small but lively subculture of musicians that choose to self-release their work on cassettes. But first, let's take a sneak peek at Luma Gallery. That's La Trobe University's Museum of Art. Luma has expanded outside the normal gallery space through a sculpture park. Scattered between the nature and beauty of La Trobe, let's take a look at how these sculptures stand out.
Luma serves a couple of purposes. So, on the one hand, we're responsible for managing the university's art collection, and that's a collection which has existed since the inception of the university, so it's nearing 50 years old. Art has a fairly long history of being an expressive tool, and particularly in contemporary art practice, a lot of artists use it as a means of expressing identity. I think the sculpture park has been added to throughout La Trobe's history, and there's once again quite a diverse range of sculptures out there. We've got a great collection of works by Inga King, which we have 3 works out on the campus at the moment. The works once again represent a diverse range of artists. The most recent acquisition has been Murray Totems, which sits outside the LIMS building, by the artist Rico Rennie. And Rico identifies as a young Indigenous artist who has had, in his short career to date, has been mainly identifying with urban Indigenous culture, I guess. And he's produced 4 stunning works which sit as these kind of 4 discrete, well, they're totems, I guess, which also emblazoned with patterning from his people, but set against kind of this stunning architectural building and referencing kind of the colours of street art as well. So there's kind of these different worlds and different types of identity merging in the one work.
Now, if you're not too good at talking about your feelings, it might be easier for you to express them through drawing or painting. Today, the practice of using art for remedial purposes is at its peak in Melbourne. Since the 1990s, this practice known as art therapy has been helping those who suffer from various mental illnesses in Australia. We spoke to Melburnian art therapist Maggie Date on how she heals her patients in this interesting way. Let's check it out.
Art expresses what words cannot. So that's where art and the arts, creative arts in general, can step in and give somebody another avenue to explore the issues that they're having. I'm Maggie. I'm a healer. I heal in a few different modalities, but the one you've come to learn about today is art therapy. So in art therapy, we work with symbols, and we can work with whatever the client brings. All arts, whether it's movement, drama, speech, poetry, writing, it has many levels of healing. So to just sit down and make art is healing. But then we can take it further by exploring the art that you've made, and that gives us a deeper healing level. I've helped people understand or discover that the sadness they're carrying doesn't belong to them, or the sadness that they're carrying, we can give it a face, and then they can have an understanding of what that means. Art therapy can assist people in finding their identity because we tap into their inner world where their identity sometimes can be hidden because it's not safe to be who all that they want to be. So what art therapy offers us is an opportunity to connect with ourselves and engage with our inner selves in a way that we often can't do without art. So by exploring your inner world and connecting with your true identity, it's life-changing.
Welcome back to Real. Now we'll be taking a look at some of Melbourne's most popular and beautiful street art. Hosier Lane is a bluestone cobbled laneway in the heart of Melbourne City. This celebrated landmark showcases some of Melbourne's most eye-popping street art. And it's no wonder why people from all over the world flock here just to catch a glimpse of some of Melbourne's hidden beauties. From Smith Street to Brunswick to the inner city grid, let's meet some of the local street artists and find out what inspires them.
Street art is loved by young people, old people, you know, 50, 60, 70-year-olds will walk around with cameras shooting this kind of work. And graffiti is still hated unanimously by most of the community. And that's the thing about graffiti, if you're not part of the community, you probably don't get it, and so you probably don't like it.
Well, there's a strong number, a strong demographic. There's a whole heap of people that aren't even strong, that are by themselves, solo, that are expressing their ways in the littlest form that might be still keeping them alive.
One thing about street art is it's quite tangible for the average person to view it and understand it. Maybe they like it or don't like it, but at least they understand this is a monster, this is a skull on a spray can, or this is like a pretty girl, or whatever it is. But there's a lot of art in the world where you look at it and you're thinking, a 5-year-old might have done that, or this sculpture from ancient Egypt doesn't really produce an emotional response to me.
It's good to see different age groups, demographics, all having an interest in it as well, so adds a bit of value.
I think there needs to be an area where artists can do their graffiti art.
So far, we've taken a look at how art can be displayed within galleries, on the street, and even used in therapy. Analog DIY, The Secret Cassette Underground, directed by Sam Eckhart, takes a look into the network of musicians and artists who continue to use cassette tapes as their medium of choice. For these artists, the cassette offers them an opportunity to stand out and also take control of the release of their own work, connecting them with like-minded individuals. It may seem a little outdated, but to these artists, the romance of the physical object and the flexibility of releasing music outside of the established mediums offers them a unique opportunity to express their identity. I hope you enjoy.
RCA Victor now offers a completely new development for new listening enjoyment with tape. Simple, convenient, practical. To put the ultimate in high-fidelity music listening and home recording pleasure within the reach of everyone.
Despite being largely abandoned by the mainstream media landscape in the early 1990s, the audio cassette tape remained very popular with home recording artists due to its low cost and ease of use. Even after the advent of digital recording and distribution, the cassette tape is still widely used by underground artists as a way to record and to share their music.
The cassette underground, as I know it, kind of began in the sort of early 70s or so, and it was literally people. There would be a fanzine, particular type of music, whether it be punk rock or country music or whatever, and people they'd have classifieds in the back of the zines, and people would sort of say, send $1 and a stamped envelope to this address, and I'll send you my cassette. People would end up having this distribution network that was totally international. You know, you might only have like 10 or 15 or 30 tapes circulating around the world, but someone in Belgium's bought a copy, someone in America, someone in Tasmania. I think it was kind of the only way to get your stuff out there. If you were doing things that were difficult or weird, or, you know, again, not commercially viable, the mainstream wasn't interested, you did it yourself. I think in that sense, it was very effective. It's kind of a lot more free than the mainstream, where every time a label takes a band into a studio, there's thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars invested in that day's work or whatever.
Sort of, I became quite involved in, I guess, the cassette culture when a lot of the bands that I was going to see quite regularly started making tapes. I guess instead of CDs, they would they would have tapes for $5. The sort of commitment to the bands that I was going to see, and like having friends in bands that were making these tapes and knowing these people that were actually like putting in hours of making them and doing different like covers for like having one sort of tape but doing like 8 different covers and then wanting all of the covers because they'd made them and it was interesting and different.
Recording on tape, yeah, I think there's a warmth to it. It's a kind of malleable format, you know, you can play with it. The machine that you play it in will play with it and sometimes potentially ruin it as well. But you know, I've got cassettes that always kind of warble in certain places and things like that. I quite like it. This is on the whiteness and pinkness. The guy that runs this label tends to do pretty small runs a lot of the time. This is a cassette by Mold Omen, who is someone from the US. As you can see here in handwriting, 19 copies out of 30. So, sorry, this is number 19 of 30. Beautiful craftsmanship in this label, and as you can see, of course, yeah, this case is very unique. There's not another one like it, even in the 30. I mean, you know, they'd all be different little bits of rubber and latex and paint stuck on there.
That romance, I guess, with knowing that there's only 20 of them, there's only 15 of them, there's only 5 of them with this coloured plastic, there's only 5 of them with this case, and they're all numbered, and like it's like handwritten numbers, and yeah, I find that really nice.
And this is a great little label that runs out of Melbourne, but is very much an international label. There's releases by people from all over Australia, and then people that he's reached out to overseas, and who have probably reached out to him and sent him stuff and said, oh, I'd love you to put something out on the label. And he can do it because it's cheap. You know, it's like, this guy doesn't have much money, but if you want to do 30 copies of a cassette, you can do it with a doll payment. And yeah, that's a very special thing.
Some of my favourite tapes are here. Probably my favourite though is Netman, which is one of John Dwyer's bands. The Netman was recorded between 1995 and 1996. The best part about this tape is it was in a really, really limited amount, so I think there's only like 50 or 100 of them. But something that I really like about it is that it's signed. When we were in one of the OC shows in Geelong, we approached John and just said like, "Hey man, great show. Can you sign this tape? Like, this is my favourite tape." And he's like, "I've never signed one of these." And it was just like, yes, I've got the only one. Like,
another Wardenberger cassette. I just, you know, I'll pull that out because they match. So this is the Whiz Fizz Around Us and Coles on the other side, I think. It's recorded over an old Frank Black tape, which is a massive improvement in my mind. Oh, the Warden's come off there, but yeah, there you go. Warden Burger. Okay.
Welcome back to Real. I hope you all enjoyed Analog DIY. Now we'll be interviewing Nori Newmark, Professor in Creative Arts at La Trobe University, to discuss her thoughts on the documentary and identity through the creative process. Hi Nori, thanks for joining us.
Hi, thanks for having me.
How do you think this documentary speaks on identity and belonging to the artist and the consumer in this underground community?
Well, first of all, I loved the documentary. I loved the people in it and their passion and the way that it was filmed, so we really got a sense of how their passion is very tangible. They loved the feel of it, the feel of the cassette tapes. They liked opening them up and reading and seeing how the labels were written and what was on the labels. And I think that really speaks to the way that sort of community works. Like, it's very much what Henry Jenkins talks about in terms of fans, that they're a really active and creative group of people. They're not really consumers in that old-fashioned sense, and especially of mass culture. They really are intimately and creatively engaged with the culture that they're part of, and they do that through these objects, both the object itself as well as the music that's on it. And I think for the people, for the artists who make the tapes, the documentary speaks to the way that they are engaged with their audience in a different sort of way, and the pleasures that involves for both of them.
Beautiful. So you yourself have received several nominations and awards for your contribution into the creative art industry, including winning first prize for experimental CD-ROM at the Adam Awards in 2000. How can the identity of an underground culture of cassette tapes be sustained today in today's digital age?
Well, for me, it's actually the digital age that needs this sort of culture, because in the digital age, the sort of dominant aesthetics is clean, perfect, total control, and that's actually quite oppressive to anyone who wants any sort of activity. And what this sort of culture does is offer pleasure and delight in the contingent, in the delay, in the uncertain, in the glitch. You know, will the tape break, whatever? Will the tape slow down at a certain point, as someone mentioned on the documentary? And that sort of pleasure, I think, is something we all need to have kept alive in face of a sort of consumer-oriented promise of perfection and control. So I don't think it'll be hard for it to be sustained.
And you're a sound media artist and theorist. Your media works include installations, internet and CD-ROMs. Your works have been exhibited nationally and internationally. But have you yourself experimented with cassette tapes?
I haven't really experimented with cassette tapes. I used them in the early days of radio when we would record on cassette tape and then record the programs that we made onto cassette tape so we could share them around. But I have always been interested in DIY and lo-fi for the reasons I was sort of talking about, the sort of unexpected, the uncertainty, the creativity that it sort of allows. And I've written about that.
Wow, that's so brilliant. And thank you so much for coming in and sharing all the knowledge that you have. It's been so lovely to have you here on Real.
Thanks, Zoe.
Now, taking a dive into the performance side of art, we will now take a look into the life of an Irish dancer. Most people will recognise this medium when seen in such performances as Riverdance and Lord of the Dance. But have you ever wondered about the training and dedication and passion involved in this expression through movement? Now I'll be introducing you to someone who chooses to explore their identity through dance, Irish dance to be exact.
My name is Alex Lasala. I'm 18 years old. Aside from Irish dancing, I am studying a Bachelor of Communications and Media. Irish dancing has formed my identity in a lot of ways. I think I started when I was 4 years old, so that was about 14 years ago now. And I think because I started at such a young age, it's probably all that I really know. So it's formed my personality in a lot of ways. I'm a lot more confident thanks to Irish dancing. I dance in a school in Oakley. It's called Mulcahy Hayes. Our dance classes are pretty full-on, pretty strenuous. And then on top of that, I try to dance maybe 1 or 2 times a week in my garage. I've got a dance floor, and I try to do an hour myself if possible. I think of my dance class as one big family, mainly because we're all really close. Over the years, I have gotten pretty close to people that do Irish dancing. We inspire and we motivate each other, and we speak outside of dancing, so it's it's exciting to go to dance class to see them. If I was to go to another country and dance in another school, I think I would belong there pretty easily, because I think everyone that does Irish dancing is there for the same purpose, the same reason. We all want to be better dancers, we all love dancing. Irish dancing makes me feel part of the Irish culture in Australia. I think everyone's brought together in the Irish culture at competitions and displays and events and things like that. I used to do a lot of displays for the Irish Society when I was younger, at Irish pubs and things like that. A lot of my life revolves around Irish dancing.
I really wonder how they're able to move their legs so quickly. You know, in this modern age, art is not only about sculptures and paintings, but also performance, as we've just seen. The viral world of YouTube has countless performers, quite a few of them who live here in Melbourne. Up next, we have the founder of YouTube's largest group in Australia, Angry Aussie.
My name's Andrew. I'm also known as Angry Aussie on YouTube.
G'day viewers, welcome to Wangathat Wednesday, where I tell you who am I not giving a fuck about today.
The joke about, Mr. Angry, he was angry about everything, and the anger is way out of scale with the thing they're actually discussing. So I don't think I've ever lied. I don't think I've ever said something I didn't actually believe. I just was probably never quite as angry as I came across when I made the video about it.
About the only way you could be more objectively racist is to be in the fucking Klan, show up in your hood on TV saying, I demand you apologise for calling me racist.
It's reasonable to say it was a complete alternate personality, because I work in offices, I'm an IT professional, suit, tie type of stuff, very straight, and so the angry stuff, that's like so far away from my day job.
The fuck are you thinking about, Abbott?
I do draw a line of separation between my online persona and my real self. I think a lot of people think the online me is me, and it simply isn't. And so many times I've lost count of people saying, I was too scared to come up and talk to you because I thought you'd shout at me.
Checked my to-do list. Your mum is right at the top, but giving a fuck about you, nowhere to be found.
But then they see me just talking to people and being nice and smiling, and they think, maybe I can talk to him. Once you get the persona down, you can just switch it on and off. Or you should be able to, otherwise maybe you are crazy.
I think he and I would be very good friends. That's all for tonight. I hope you've all enjoyed the episode. Next week on Real, we'll be looking at defining moments within a person's life. Life is all memory, except for the one present moment that goes by so quickly you can hardly catch it going. Just a little quote from Tennessee Williams to see you out. Don't forget to check out next week's episode. Thanks for joining us. I'm Zoe Bellotta. Good night, and remember to stay real.